All right, hello everybody. Hey guys, how's it going? Oh, sorry guys. It's never a good idea when I'm just like, I immediately start clearing my throat and then like a teacher problem pops up. But let's get started. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Justin and you're watching and or listening to episode 445 DangIT Prodcast. Welcome back everybody. Already tripping up. This is great. So, you may have noticed that I'm the only person here for the podcast this episode. Yeah, that's because we typically will notify each other like by the minute, like when we're going live. It looks like things to just start popping up. I know that with Phil, he was just letting me know that he was going out to celebrate like his father's birthday today, so happy birthday to him as well. Coincidentally, actually, we got my mom's birthday that happened earlier like this week, but we're doing that celebration like in the evening, so we were able to do the podcast on time. But if it's just me, we'll probably keep it pretty short. I'm going to go through all the nice little things that have happened like this past week that's mattered to me, that I wanted to talk about, and we're here to have a good time regardless. Although I feel like when we, and you know what, I should probably bring this up too, it has been a long time since we did like a solo like podcast like this one, and you know what, I think we're good on that one. It's just that like we've always had like another person, that would be Mark here and there, but yeah, I think I'm good. I just know that like I've personally had some problems in the past doing this. If you guys have been following the podcast for a while, I've just never been really too good with like solo podcasts, but yeah, I think we'll be fine. So I'm going to put that behind me, and let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that have been happening this past week. Personal news first, right? So I've been pretty preoccupied this like past week as far as work, like work. And sorry, I was thinking about the song, but yeah, that's been something, and it's not something I can really like disclose everything about it. All I can tell you guys is that hopefully I'll have some good news like by next week or so, but I'll let you guys know otherwise. I've just been working quite a lot, so much so that's actually kind of got in the way of like my my streaming this past week. I've only been able to stream like twice, except for this one, obviously. That would have been like the past Sunday and just yesterday. But yeah, definitely putting the grind on there. But I'll let y'all know when we have an update on that like later on. So I guess I should also like touch up on the channel, the YouTube channel actually. So as you guys know, there's been quite a hiatus when it comes to Pokemon like Shining Pearl Nuzlocke. It's one of those things where it's kind of difficult to put that into my schedule, so I've been slowly editing some stuff out there, and hopefully I'll be able to like kind of mass produce it on a really regular schedule. And I'm also doing that for the podcast shorts as well. It's another thing where it's kind of hard to review it, but once I have them, they're good to go. I have shorts prepped up from like 2 podcasts ago. A lot of good highlights there. I'm definitely going to fully take advantage of shorts kind of being one of the major factors on YouTube that's being pushed right now. So looking forward to that. Also had an idea for another Let's Play, but I am wanting to like focus in on a different type of formatting to help with recording and therefore like the output of Let's Plays going forward. It's at the like the planning phases of it, so we won't be able to execute that until further notice. But that's it on YouTube. Twitch has been relatively same. I guess it also stems into like the gaming topics of things. Fire Emblem Engage came out, was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? I don't remember actually. No, actually it came out 3 weeks ago or something like that. I have not been able to touch like Fire Emblem Engage this past week either, except for like yesterday and maybe that Sunday. But having played, I guess clocked in roughly around like 9 to 11 hours, I can say that first impressions is pretty strong. I really do like this game. I think that presentation wise, it's so much better than like Three Houses in like some very like specific things, whether it be like the animation for things, like a little bit more like flavorful like voice acting and like flavor text here and there, or just dialogue. I've been really enjoying that a lot more than Three Houses, like in hindsight. And I bring this up a little bit more so because I was listening to another podcast talk about their thoughts about Fire Emblem Engage and what it appeared to them specifically. It's whatchamacallit, I would say, is that Mark? I see you, Mark. Also gotta move like some stuff going on. Mark, where have you been? What are you doing? You're supposed to be over here. Oh, my grandpa, so I can show up. Oh, okay, fair enough. You are dismissed this time around. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can work my way around with the chat window being where it's at. I guess it was good right there, but I'll have to move that around a little bit for the sake of this one. Perfect. Look at your tags. Wait, what happened to my tags? Oh. Damn, you got me. I'm gonna change that real quick. I didn't know what that text was like. No, what your first chat was. I was like, what? All right, all right. That should be there. Yeah, unfortunately, the tags on Twitch, as nice as they are, it's they don't really do autocorrect. So it really is just like the Wild West when you like type in whatever. I love VOD games. VOD games. All right, enough of that embarrassment. So, actually, we'll stick in it around a little longer since we're on this like the main topics of things. The first one, Mark, how have you been? We can still have the podcast and have you like just text replies back. We'll work with it like that. I'll just going on about like Fire Emblem real quick. 11 hours in. First impressions are pretty strong for me, and the reason I bring a lot of this stuff is because I was listening just yesterday about other people's like perspectives on Fire Emblem, mainly just two guys, maybe from the Nintendo, but it could just be any other podcast, right? Now they were saying that it like they understand like the reception's good. It's just that like it just their opinion like differs from mine. And since I actually think that Engage is actually like the better Fire Emblem looking game, just like visually, aesthetically, and just well, I mean, also like that's specifically like the art style direction. The gameplay is sharper. I guess we also agreed on that. But yeah, I honestly think it's a better Fire Emblem game than Three Houses, honestly. And I of course that's in hindsight. When I played through Three Houses the first time, I thought that was pretty great. Although I guess admittedly, like when you go into the monastery and you just kind of look at it just like from afar, just like visually, we're just talking about visually, it's kind of lackluster. Yeah, those colors are kind of muted. The I guess like the actual like graphics, like especially the famous thing is that like if you look at the fruit stand, everything's just like flat. Yeah, so that's a thing for sure. Yeah, it's very engaging. Yes, Fire Emblem is still engaging. You know, you guys see that title. We'll definitely talk about that in a little bit. Whew. So yeah, that I can't really give you guys like a little bit. I can't really give you guys like any type of fleshed out review of it so far. Still playing through it. I will say there's just a lot to do. Like there's the main story stuff, which obviously in other Fire Emblem games you just kind of like go into. There's no other options. But as the games have progressed, there have been a lot more options to kind of go around and just build up your teams through other means or units. With Three Houses being one of the more recent ones, you were able to you'd visit like the monastery grounds like every month or something like that, and you would just go through, talk to like your units, cook with them, interact with them, like do all these like super side things. And Engage is pretty much the exact same thing. The only difference there is that it's all kind of just optional. You don't have to do any of that, but there's so much of it, and like it only goes to your benefits and your units. That's almost a no-brainer for you to go through all that. You just have to find like a pattern, a method that you'll go through like every single time, because essentially I go into the Somniel like every battle, after every battle, because there's always support conversations. The arena opens up again. There's things to pick up, especially if you like do a lot of adoption stuff. The dogs will drop all these ingots that you'll need for refinements and stuff like that, so you're always like keeping up with that. Cooking is also helpful as far as like engaging as far as like adding to your supports, and some temporary buffs here and there, and that's pretty much everything. And yeah, and of course there's also skirmishes too, which are a little bit harder than your usual like map stuff, but if you do that, you level up your units, which is a no-brainer there too. So it's a cycle, and because of that, I think I wrapped up on chapter 9, which sounds like a little bit, but actually like these maps don't, it's actually pretty small in comparison. Like chapter 1's like the skirmish, the beginning introductory thing, which is like easy. The second like fight is pretty much like a mock battle like with your mom. The third one is the attack on the castle. The fourth one is just you going on an adventure. The pacing's actually pretty fast, all things considered. Like the actual like game story itself is pretty fast. So I would say that I think it follows in the footsteps of old Fire Emblem games as far as like that story progression. The story beats are like just really fast. But what makes it like a little bit more lengthy is just simply your involvement with everything else outside of like the main stuff. Yeah, that's everything so far. I could talk a little bit more and more about like units and stuff like that, but I will save that for another day. But Mark, you were talking about Gundam Evolution. It came out with Hyperum Gundam trailers out. If you care to see the new unit, they will be adding 3 new units between now and April. Hyperon. You can correct my pronunciation. In February, another in March, and a third in April. And that does bring us over towards our topic at hand, the live service topic, live service game specifically. We have some news that happened this past week. It was about Rumbleverse. It was also about Knockout City. If you guys don't remember, Knockout City was that dodgeball game that was announced. I think it was announced initially either through one of Xbox's conferences, or I think Nintendo. It's a game that came out in 2021. Yeah, it was your battle royale but with dodgeball. It was pretty cool. I saw Maximilian Dude play through it, and also him playing through Rumbleverse as well, respectively. Rumbleverse came out in August 2022, last year, not even a full year ago. And both of them got announced for their live service closing, which is kind of discouraging in that space. Knockout City is planning on closing June 2023, and then with Rumbleverse, again, remember it's August 2022 that it released, going offline February 28th, the end of this year. It's wow. Mark, yeah. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I get Mark's sentiment too. He was saying that I like service games as long as they are good. I think that's the main takeaway on it. But I think we have live service games as a new medium of engagement with video games these days. No longer are we. Well, I mean, not no longer. We still have games that are like Fire Emblem Engage, for example. I mean, if you take out the DLC content and season passes and whatnot, it's still a full edge of I shouldn't say that, it's a full-fledged game, right? And you can really play from start to finish in most games, start to finish, even though patches aside, they relatively are playable games that have a start and an end to it. And once they finish, you either move on to the next game, you replay the game at higher difficulties, or just want to go another round of it. And that's kind of it for that specific game. But as live service games, they incentivize you playing through it over and over and over again, because live service games are usually free to play games, and if they're not free to play, then it's a lower price tag or something like that. But a lot of the ways that live service games stay up is by you continuing to play through the servers, and by all these different microtransactions, whether it be for cosmetics. Most games are pretty much cosmetic, and not too much pay to win type of stuff, but that's also a thing as well. And at a certain point, those live service games come to an end, and unfortunately we see Knockout City and Rumbleverse being two I would say relatively big ones as far as things you'll see just showing up, as far as I guess how should I put this, because there's a bunch of them out there that are still longer lasting, but these guys are relatively new into the space. So it is a thing that happens. It's to same thing. Beefling, how's it going? To that same extent, you have games like Overwatch. You have why am I blanking on Christoph's favorite game here? Oh my god, I'm blanking so hard on that one. We have others. Yes, mainly the ones I focus on are Dragalia, Lost, and Fire Emblem Heroes. I guess I'll stay to my lane on that one, just because I don't remember the name of the other one. Oh, but now it's it's stuck in my head. I cannot not think about it. Hold on. It's not Fortnite. Fortnite's excessively successful because of what it does. Speaking of which, the Dragon Ball Super add-on to it with Gohan and Piccolo, featuring the crowd favorite weapon of Gohan's choice, the Beast Gohan axe. They didn't even think about the Z sword at all. To be fair, that thing's dead and gone, so I get that's fair too. Alrighty. Yeah. Oh my god. Apex Legends. Jesus. Apex Legends. That's a live service game that's still being supported. Sorry, give me a second. I was just like hopping over to my topics list again. Yeah, so those games are being further supported, and honestly, as far as the life expectancy of those ones, oh, Apex Mobile is just shutting down. Oh, okay, then that's unfortunate on that end. But yeah, those are still there. It's just a shame that some that just end because of like various reasons. I think a lot of people will like automatically like go towards the reason being that no one really supports those games, and or the servers, or even like plays it, you know. And you know, to be fair, like I can't say too much because I'm like someone who does like enjoy live service games, but will easily like just remove himself from it because there's usually some other game that shows up, and that's always like a tricky thing because I mean, it doesn't impact me specifically. I think that live service games like is a great thing. It's a fantastic thing for people who are not really looking towards another game or just have limited funds to even play any games, you know. And I think that's always going to be a market for that. And for those who simply just enjoy live service games and have some money in the back, they can continue to like they can continue to support the franchise that way. Why are they shutting down everything? That's always the question, and I don't know. Obviously, we don't really know the specifics of it. And as I was saying, a lot of people might default to the answer that like, oh, because it's no longer be popular, no one's supporting it or whatnot. There's also the possible reason that, you know, like the company is being bought out by something that doesn't want to support that, or like they have like a different venture in mind and they don't have like the means of supporting that like that franchise anymore, so they're just gonna like stop supporting it going forward. Just it just depends, as Mark was saying. Sometimes it's just too much money, or can't support the manpower for the project. Overwatch isn't shutting down, but they did shut down Overwatch 1 after 2 came out. So that was one of the reasons why they had to do that. So, and you know, I can't really give you much insight. I can only just tell you that like last year, Dragalia Lost which was like one of the leading original like mobile games for like with Nintendo. That ended last year. And I think Nintendo has a couple of them under their name. Maybe Pokemon's like kind of separate from that, but Fire Emblem Heroes is another one that like pops into my mind when it comes to live service games, and that will also follow suit at some point. But I believe that the fan base and support's still there. I think Fire Emblem Heroes has a relative couple years to still go. It depends on what they want to do. Obviously, the main important thing is just to like kind of similar to like Genshin Impact, although Genshin Impact is kind of big, so it's kind of similar in the sense that they always introduce new characters. In Fire Emblem's case, they either have new like people like showing up from like the new game, so Engage will just show up with more units, or they give you like different like variants to those characters to further prolong it, because the idea is that with heroes there's always like a new meta with these units and they just keep topping each other, but the only problem is that like the descriptions to each of their like new stuff is like adding another paragraph, so that's the only problem. But otherwise yeah, it's just about like them exceeding like their own meta, which makes it's a little difficult for those starting out to get into those games, but for those who been playing for a long time, now they have another reason to continue to like progress. I thought about like continuing Fire Emblem Heroes, but man, dude, is there so many things to like keep in mind of when that happens. Destiny 2, because I see you guys talking about that. Yeah, don't worry about Destiny 2. There's still a fan base there. But if you do hear anything, I didn't say anything. If something happens, I have actually no idea. Honestly, like when it comes to this kind of stuff, I think it's best to just observe it from afar. Or no, actually, rather you should really like look into seeing like what people have been doing. What the hell just fell down? I heard something in the background. I was like, what the? Actually, there's a lot of possible things that could have fallen from this room. There's a lot of stuff here. I'm only adding on to it some more. Speaking of which, Got some amiibos, which I have no right to pick up anymore because look at that shelf. That's well, I guess for audio listeners, my shelf is starting to really like pack in all the stuff, which is crazy since like there was just a little tiny version of it that didn't have much of anything at all. And now fast forward, when I started picking up a bunch of the collectible stuff, it is stacked to the brim. I'm gonna have to figure something out. But we got these two amiibos. We got from GameStop, the Corrin amiibo, the Player 2 one, and then we also have the Palmute from the Sunbreak DLC. So super cool. I was able to use like Corrin to scan in for Engage, just to give you like an extra little like item thing. I have not scanned the Sunbreak amiibos. I have Palico in the back there too. No Malzano though. That's gonna be tough to find. But yeah, no. We were just talking about the live service games. So yeah, no. I think that there is a demand for those types of games. I may not be the specific curated audience for it. I'll play like a round or a session of it and I'll probably enjoy it, but otherwise I'm kind of moving on to something else. But for the others, like that's a big thing for them. So, you know, it adds, I was gonna say, I won't like drag this into the topic of like preservation, game preservation. That's definitely like Phil's like thing that he'll definitely like expand on. But I will say that it is really unfortunate when you do see games like that, and you know, even if you have like an inkling of like fondness towards it, like it's not like something you can go back to and just kind of relive it, unless you like set up the parameters to do so. Like somehow like you revitalize the servers or you even create your own server. I don't even know how you do that, technically speaking. Like that's a whole other like front that I cannot even tell you guys about, because I'm just like, can people make servers? Like how do you make a server? Here's how you do a new server on Discord. They're like, no, not that kind of server. I'm talking about it's probably similar, but I'm like, no, like an actual game server that you can like host online. Granted, there's other means of kind of doing that. Well, yeah, actually, what was that? There's a platform, there's a software online that lets you do local like multiplayer, but you can host like, especially if you're playing on PC specifically, and if you have like the right like host link with somebody else, you can play with them and have like the lowest latency possible. So there's like workarounds like that. But I guess we're talking about live service games, so things that where you're like actively like plugged in online to like a whole like server that connects to a whole bunch of other folks. So it's nothing like a I guess a Dragon Ball Fighters match where you want to play like local like multiplayer for like the smallest amount of latency possible, but you're doing like a remote connection to them via like this specific software, which I don't remember the name of. But yeah. Also, you guys are talking about yeah, sorry guys. Oh, let me just check with everybody, see what everyone's up to. You know, Mark said something about Forsaken. I was like, oh, that's the expansion for Destiny. But I looked at that as like Forspaken. I was like, bruh, wait, what are we talking about that one? So we're not talking about the Last of Us show? Nope, I'm not watching that. It's on HBO Max, that's why. I had a subscription before, but I was helping out the homie like at the time, so I signed off at some point afterwards. I heard a couple of things about it, mainly the episode with Bill. I guess I could touch upon it like just a little bit. So in Last of Us, the video game, we played it on the PlayStation 4 as like its remastered version, not part 1. Although I don't think there's much of a difference between the two at all, except for like visual fidelity and just like other like nice little tweaks here and there. But essentially in the story, you have a character named Bill that Joel knows, and he shows up for like a chapter or two, and that's it. You know, you don't even see him. I don't even know what happens to him in part 2. I'm assuming he's gone. If not, he's just kind of like keeping a shelter. But I guess the show HBO already has a fair bit of reception, right? But they touch upon the character Joel with his partner in this one. I think Frank, right? Sorry, Sophie. Frank. Was it Bill? Oh, wait, did I? Okay, I was like, wait, did I say Bill at all? Or did I say someone else's name? No, it's Bill. Bill. Yeah, Parsec, by the way. Sorry. Yeah, Mark said Parsec earlier on. I was like, oh, right. Yeah, it was Parsec. Yeah, Parks and Rec. But, yeah. So, yeah, we'll just call, like, them, like, Bill and Frank. So, I guess, yeah, it makes sense. I never really, like, connected the dots about that. But they expand on, like, Bill and Frank's relationship in, like, one of the episodes on HBO. And apparently it's really hitting people's heartstrings, like, in a big way. And you know what? I totally get that. Also, like, that setup that they got was crazy. Dude, like, when you have, and obviously this is a lot of like editing magic and whatnot, but the fact is that they set the scene, the set, being still within like that timeline of Last of Us, like during like shutdowns and you know the apocalyptic like phenomenon going on with the clickers and the whatever's. And you know, actually, what do they call them? You know, we like obviously like they're a fungi type of thing, but like I don't know what their generalized name is. Why do I not know this? Because obviously, like in something like The Walking Dead, they were always known as just walkers, and they never like changed like from that. Yeah, clickers are the one that click, but that's not the general term that they are like known as. Yeah, but Mark was saying, going back to it, I've used Parsec to remote play games with friends, and they can also control your computer remotely if you give them access, which is actually really cool. It's actually a really nice, nifty tool. I'm trying to like figure out now. This is like starting to bug me too. I guess you can call them the infected, because they don't really have any type of they're not really given a group name except for like specific type of enemies like the clickers, the bloaters, I guess the shamblers. I guess there's the Rat King. What the runner. The runner. Oh no. Beefling immediately says, give me access to your bank account. Oh, Gray's here also. How's it going? We were talking a little briefly about I guess the Last of Us show. I can't really give you guys a lot of feedback about that. I haven't really watched it. I've only seen like I've only played a little bit of the game with like Kristoff, and we like, you know, we swap places here and there. So I only had that experience. Speaking of which, we still got to do the Last of Us Part 2 with Anaya. That's still like in the works still, right? Chamblers are the normal ones. Got you. Thanks for the FYI on that one. But yeah, no. All I know is that Pedro Pascal is a gem. And obviously one of the characters who plays as Bill is Ron Swanson. It's hard. I get it. Like I don't even watch that show, but it's like I've seen his face. He's memeable. And it's so funny because it really is like you play the scene like of him like going yeah, there's a part like in the show or the episode where like he goes into like this abandoned mall and he's just like, oh yeah, it was pretty much like a Home Depot, and he just like picked up a bunch of stuff. And this is all part of the process of him like making his home in this apocalyptic setting. Gray's asking this question here. Let me just finish up this last thought. So yeah, so there's Last of Us. Going real quick back to like live service games, it really sucks. I mean, but there's also like an audience for it. Like Genshin Impact is legitimately live service. Like all of Honkai stuff, from what I understand, as of this date and just currently of relevancy, that's all like live service. So, and then they're also doing their new game, which is I think Star Rail. I remember that was starting to get promoted like this past week too, as far as like a closed beta showing up like this later this month. It's got a lot of real quick about the trailer. It looks pretty clean. That's all I can really say. But again, it's gonna follow the live service like structure. So it will probably, especially with Genshin Impact, kind of like following a narrative like in that world. There's not really like, I would say by the time that story, the whole general story like wraps up, that's when you could possibly see that ending. But you know, otherwise it's still going for sure. It's also a very strong live service game because of one, being free, and two, kind of like a full transformation from like what you would assume as like the mobile game. Not so engaging, and some definitely like just point and click like style, to completely like transition to like a full 3D type of thing. That was the craziest thing for me to see, especially when I was like introduced to was Honkai Impact the third. And though that's still very much so like more mobile, like in that direction, it still had like the 3D like action stages, and I was like, that's crazy. I was able to do that. But yeah, so there's definitely like certain live service games that just have like their foot in the door, and they're doing excessively well, and you have other ones that are relatively new, like Knockout City and Rumbleverse, that they have their audience, but due to other like outside influences, they cannot continue the service, so they unfortunately cease after a while. So, but all in all, kind of like what Mark said, like if it's enjoyable, then it's enjoyable. You just have to like really hold on to those memories that you have of it in that case. But alrighty, that's pretty much it on the game space, right? Gray brought up something interesting that's a pretty good topic for like conversation. What do you think of anime's focus on strength or themes surrounding strength or power? You know, that's interesting. Obviously, like, and you know, like we can kind of go back on like what Mark was saying. I can dig it. Well, yeah, I can dig it. Depends on how it's done sometimes. Big shonen head, so can get down to like the strength power aspect. Lots of times, even with like different aspects, those aspects can become like the strengths and powers and stuff like that. Yeah, so I can only kind of perceive it as this, like the idea of power and strength in like in just like self-input world has different like implications to it. Some of them are like in specifically in like shonen shows, like it's actual like raw strength, or like this level of power with the energy base like base into that show. Other shows that don't even like fall into that, like actions and whatnot, power is just like one's like status in that case. Like you have to also remember that there's always going to be like social status in like whatever base world that you place yourself in, and that also like equates to like one's wealth and intelligence, etc etc etc. But kind of like looking over to things like shonen, that's a lot easier to kind of like identify and like separate between all that kind of stuff. I think it's something that is like, it's a very fundamental, very simple thing to even like tackle as a topical thing, because I think a lot of people who watch that mainly at the time, it's recommended like audience was like for teens and up, and now it's teens and like further beyond, right? I think we can all understand, like, especially when you're following like a main character whose like base like power level is like one of the lowest, or in also like in stark contrast one that's excessively high but wants to just kind of meet like in between here and there. You know, it's one of those things where depending on like where they're at, like that viewpoint of power is like different. But I think at the center of things in a shonen like world, power and strength is like everything. And even though like there's like other class systems too, like one's wealth and like education, all of that in a shonen show kind of just get pushed as like a second priority over like one's strength and power in the near literal sense, if not, yes, the literal sense. And you know that also comes in the form of like either one's like physical strength or one's like mental state as well. But I am like, yeah, we are kind of speaking rather broad about this. This sounds like some kind of paper I could write. We wouldn't catch me dead doing that. Actually, I did make a thesis. Dude, people talk about like their like college thesis like being like the bane of their existence or like the absolute like thorn in their side, because it really is like a general like build up in the review back on like their studies and everything like that. Mine was just like pick a topic and then just present it. And I was like, you know what, I followed the YouTube system for a while during that time frame because it's a way different beast now. I actually did it on the topic of power as kind of like a conceptual thing and how people acquire it in the space of YouTube, specifically YouTube. And I made that into a video. I passed with flying colors. It was crazy. I was like, whoa, that's actually using my knowledge and skills on something to make the assignment much easier. It's great. I really enjoyed being able to do that. But yeah, kind of like checking through here. Yeah, it does have like different concepts of power or strength depending on the show. But yeah, pointing out, yeah, but yeah, like there's things where it's like power being like the main governing like factor like of an anime world, and how it will like impact someone like negatively to a point where like it becomes an obsession towards it. And you know, I think that's a pretty like simple and effective like formula for like storytelling. Like you have like one character who especially if they're like motivated by something that makes them feel justified to do it, to acquire more power. Like I have something I gotta protect or something like that. I have to acquire the ultimate power or something like that. I don't know. But or like I want to change the world, and in order to change the world I need to have like this power, but there's so many oppositions, and I also have like a really tragic backstory about all this and all that other stuff. And then yeah, on the opposite side it's kind of the same thing. Honestly, ooh, My Hero's actually showing up with this one too. My Hero's actually a pretty good example of that, because it's just like superpowers. How effective is like your quirk? How do you apply it? Now, granted, it's it's a shonen anime, so they can't really go into the like all the little finite details about like how the glowing baby is an effective citizen. No, like, and Mineta is just like there. He's chilling. He's big chilling, and he hasn't really actually he hasn't gotten a lot of spotlight in a while. I hope he's okay. But whatchamacallit, it was with that one, they're definitely at the point where they're making parallels between like Midoriya and Shigaraki being the main like antagonist. There's a lot of antagonists, but we're just gonna say Shigaraki's like the main one. Their upbringings can be like drastically like the same. If anything, just simply similarities between like them and the mentors, right? Because those have like a much more like significant like connection between each other. So, and just like the power scaling in that, it's interesting when you cross over like shows and try to make comparisons there. Obviously it's one of those things where like who would win in a fight? Goku versus insert everybody else. But the power stuff is different. Like Dragon Ball Z, I think follows like that traditional like, oh, like obviously Goku's the main character, so he's gonna be like, oh, I want to get stronger. I have to do that by training. We view that as him like gaining more muscle or like getting different forms, being a lot faster. Um, and then there's other shows that will take power in a different sense. I was gonna say, oh, you guys remember Erased? Erased was a 2000. Oh my God, what? Hold on. Erased. Let me just make sure I know that's it is that it's that series. Let me just check on the release date on that one. Yeah, I was gonna say Erased is like I was gonna say 2018. It's actually 2017. It's a 2017 show, or at least if any, late 2017, December, if anything. It was about that guy who he lived a pretty like regular life. And I think what happened was that I think he either got killed or like either that or his mom got killed, right? And then like he was gonna be framed by that, and then all of a sudden like he gained like this ability to like go back in time to like a younger version of himself and like change things to like affect that future. It gives you like a bunch of twists here and there, but the power aspect in that one is not only his ability to like know and like manipulate things here, but the person above him, the main antagonist, is like the master manipulator in all that, in the sense that he is like the adult in that time frame, and he has like much more of an influence because he has all these different connections. So power isn't at all talked about in that one in that sense, but that's how you would like apply it there too, where it's like, yeah, dude, like this guy is like, well, maybe I shouldn't spoil it too much. For a 2017 show, I will not spoil it. It's good. It's like really good. It was one of those shows that like I just chose on a whim to watch it like one night, and I didn't get enough sleep that following night. I had to pace myself a little bit, but it was really good. I really like that. Gray was saying, do you think a quirkless person would be able to stand up to the villains and heroes who have quirks? Absolutely. Like that's 100%. Because like it's interesting because when you have and I don't mean to really like talk too big on this one, because like I can only give you like generalized and like my own personal perspective of it. Like I can't really be an expert on this. But I would say that like in the world of My Hero, right? For you to have a quirk already puts a status on you. You like being a quirk is above being quirkless. But you have to also think about the fact that like that's just the label. That's the label. That little baby, like in the beginning, that is able to glow up in the dark, that's its quirk. Is otherwise physically no different than a guy like that. Quirkless dude can beat the hell out of that baby. It like if we're talking about like that type of like power like competition. But because you have a quirk, you kind of immediately think like, oh, and quirkless is like, oh, it's like the announcer in Smash Bros. Melee talking about all the other characters like Link, Donkey Kong, and Mario, and then Ganondorf. It's like, do you have a personal vendetta against Ganondorf? Nah, it's actually not quite like that. But as far as the toning of that, it's like people like in that society in My Hero, like quirks, for one to have a quirk already gives you like an advantage in that sense. And then there's a whole power scale between that, because it's like the way we view like, because it's a shonen, so we always think about like the actual legitimate things you can do with your quirk. Like if you have super strength, that you're high up there. If you're able to like just pick like sticky balls out of your head, I guess you're better than the average person, but that's it. But yeah, I agree with you. It's perfectly possible. Might not be easy, but doesn't make it impossible. Yeah. Oh yeah. To kind of go back to your question. So yeah, like there's also like a bunch of other factors. Obviously, like if you got like a big time villain who's able to like turn your insides out like upon like a single touch, that's it, right? But it's like maybe you like as a power, like just like your individual like evaluation of power someone looking at you and you're like, that guy has a power level of like 1, and that guy has like a power level of like 306. So what are you gonna do? I think if you, in that case, it's kind of like, you know what? It's a good example here. One Punch Man season 1. Oh my god, Moomin Rider is an average dude who like rides his bike around the city. He's a C rank hero. Against like, I forget the guy's name. He's the Sea King. And like Moomin Rider had no right. Actually had all the rights, actually. Like, that's how much respect he gets for like standing up to that dude. So TLDR, yes, you can stand up to them, and it will give you like a lot of street cred for that. But man, dude, will you possibly get like tossed up for that? Yeah. Also, One Punch Man started as a normal person too. That is very true. But also, yeah, we also have to think about the writing on that one too, in the sense that like no normal person could go through that. But maybe in that world they could, but no one takes them seriously about that. It's like, there's no way. No, you wouldn't. So that's why there's only one Punch Man. There's only one Saitama. It's great. I love that concept a lot. But yeah, I think to kind of go full circle on the question about it is that yeah, there is a lot of value and power in like any type of world, but one's like, I guess one importance of like strength in one area versus another, it varies a lot. Also, I guess one of my favorite shows is ReZero, in the sense that like Subaru is like one of the most like powerless like individuals. Well, I shouldn't really say that like in that sense. I guess strictly speaking, as far as like his ability to do this and do that in the beginning of the show, is very subpar. Like, it's the normal human being versus like a master assassin, a couple of like, well, at least one maid that seeks him out as an enemy and will absolutely like tear him asunder with like that crazy ball and chain. And then there's the whole big wolf dude, and then like the head of the house himself, and then rabbits. A man eating rabbits. I mean, granted, his power is to go back in time, so that is the ultimate power. It just doesn't like, it doesn't like outwardly like project itself. It's something that he has to deal with. So yeah, I guess like for that specific like perspective of it, that's just me kind of like talking like about what I know about ReZero. But in that sense, like as far as the idea of strength that we normally see in shonen, that doesn't really appear like overtly with Subaru. Moreover, it's a means to an end to like try to define something like that. It's, in that case, I think in the world ReZero, like the knowledge has like a big impact for him. Thus, the knowledge of like who these people he's interacting with, what he needs to do at a certain time period or not, the right words to say, that's super important. But it's also a place where like if you have the skills, like the physical skills to get something done, you do kind of okay over there too. And yeah, we're talking about isekais too. Yeah. Gray was talking about, I just like how bland and horrible said protagonist personalities are. You know, I understand that. Sometimes like isekais become like the new slice of life where you turn your brain off and it's like, oh, it's just your main protag just doing whatever they want to do because they want to. But there's like problems that they come across so easily that's like, oh my god, I guess I'll have to use my strength again. What about reality? Yeah, I get you. Like, plus there's a concept of being realistic in fiction, but here's the problem with that. When people talk about being realistic or something like that, it's based on what people think is reality, not really exactly. Like the whole thing on One Punch Man, yeah, is that he's supposed to be a normal dude that did like I wouldn't say like normal, but like at least above average things just to maintain better health. And look at him now, he's like beyond that. What people need to understand is that like when you talk about being realistic, you have to talk about being realistic in the author's sense, how they're framing the entire world, because ultimately it's created by one person or a couple other people, and that's like they understand how that world is governed. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just like, we got this character right here, that's it. And here's this world, here's this whole like power structure that we're gonna place on top of them, and we're gonna just write in how he's gonna get through all that. Sometimes, most of the time, he just gets the power, and that's it. Being the concept of being realistic in fiction. Oh boy, I didn't expect us to have this type of conversation, but yeah, to tie in what I was saying about reality with the genre of isekai, why is it that the isekai protagonists are always average people? Because it's because it appeals to people. That's the main reason. Isekais, like in and of themselves, are like people being transported into a different world, and like with each like other isekai, it's always like a deviation from that. It's this person gets isekai to another world, but they do this, or they have that, or they're different gender, or they're the weakest, or they are now the strongest thing, you know. Actually, I guess nowadays like I like ReZero. I would say that's like one of my favorite like shows. But as far as an isekai, I think my favorite might just be like that time. Oh my god, I'm gonna say it in full. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. Average 30-something like year old dude gets isekai into a show as a slime. The base weakest thing. But the thing is that he has an AI sage like companion that will like help him like with calculating certain things. He's able to acquire a lot of like abilities early on. What was appealing about that show was the fact that like it was a regular dude, right, who thought a lot of internal monologue in the beginning of the show, would build up his power, find out how strong he really is, but also be kind of ignorant of that. But then later on, you know, as the story progresses, he is much more aware of that, so you lose a little bit of that. I might have deviated from the whole topic at hand, but the reason I believe that a lot of people will see that they're just average dudes showing up in isekais is because, one, that I think that was ideally the main genre of it. Obviously there's other ones before, but Sword Art Online was pretty much about like a regular dude who just was kind of a shut-in somewhat, if not is, who is placed into a video game like everybody else. If you died in the game, you died for real, etc, etc, etc. But he's otherwise just a normal dude who acquires skills later on. But like when you take out the visor, he's just the dude. He's just a dude. But yeah, it's all, yeah, also like, well, people like Rasputin or Gandhi. I don't know actually the connection what we're trying. Yeah, Rasputin and Gandhi are both real people in our world, yet their stories are far from like mundane even. That's because people like to like indulge on that, you know? Like we love to like hype things up to a certain point. Like when people want to recount like some very exciting moments, a lot of it gets like indulged upon. And you know, that's totally fine, because that's you trying to make a good story out of it. So it kind of like cycles all the way back to why people are like so engaged on these shows. It usually the relatability is a big thing that grabs people's attention, because like if you told me like, okay, I have a show about a guy who's so powerful he's literally able to like walk up to like the Demon King's front door and like one shot him, and that's the show, or at least that's the whole show, and the rest of it, yeah, like, no, it's just that. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's whatever. But then you give me a twist on that. It's like, you know, what if the guy is someone that's just like you, but he has that potential to do this? And I'm gonna give you like a quick like synopsis of how he gets to that. It's like, okay, all right. Granted, like I'm I guess I shouldn't be that guy to give you guys the idea. Keep in mind, I'm not saying pro tags have to be famous or politically powerful or wealthy. I just like to see some like substance, so to speak. Well, I can't give you like specific examples, but I think starting a character off as just totally base normal, like the average human being strength, and then seeing them kind of ascend from that, like in a much more, what's the word, organic way, I guess, then that might be the appealing thing for you. But the problem is that how do you do that like in 12 episodes, you know? I mean, obviously you can do that, but it's like, how do you get people's attentions in 12 episodes? Because now like, as much as we love to tell the story, just naturally, there's also the factor that you're trying to appeal to an audience now. And in order to outreach to as many people as possible, you also have to make it super engaging to the fact that it's like, okay, well, like, I'm totally invested in this person. Sometimes you just need like a really good hook to it. It's like people like go for like shock value. I think Goblin Slayer is probably a pretty prime example of like a huge shock value to it in the very beginning. And I think I guess that's not really an isekai, that's just simply a dark fantasy type of like show. But I guess if anything, Goblin Slayer, like the character Goblin Slayer, can be like pretty relatable. I actually do like that show to a certain extent. But I guess like it's one of those that like it follows like a very simple concept. Like this dude's just super vengeful towards like these goblins, hates them. Like he would, like without batting an eye, he would ask for them to cease to exist. He would go to the moon if he knew that there was a goblin there. Or something like that. But like I guess that's the interesting thing, that like I'm like personally engaged with that character, in the sense that like, you know, he's average, but he's picked up all these like tools and tricks to specifically fight and hunt down like goblins. He knows them like from the back of his mind. He has like, and I guess that's also too sorry I'm like totally hopping off the walls here, but I guess it's how they build up that character, right? I guess, oh my god. I'll keep it like really brief because we should probably wrap up. But I will say that like to kind of like go full circle, things like the engagement things in the characters also have to be or I'm sorry, how worlds and characters are kind of built up is also influenced by how the writer wants to attract people to their works. And that's something they gotta like really juggle with. Gray was saying, honestly, the way stories are thought of is a big part of why I think they're quite low quality compared to in the past. You're gonna have to give me like physical examples, but we're running out of time. Okay, all right, we're running out of time. Because like I would love to talk about this like with like a whole cast, but it's just me. So yeah, no. Fire Emblem, the anime, right? that's also something as well, but not to that tier. I guess we'll have to talk about like specific things, but yeah, relatability might be best to think of in regards to attracting an audience, but doesn't necessarily make it a great story. That's a great way to like end it on. It doesn't have to be relatable, and well, relatable does play like a strong thing, but it doesn't have to be that to make it a great story. Yeah, we can leave it at that. It is a really easy thing to kind of like get people to grasp onto that, because if you look at like storytelling, like I guess God of War, like 2018 2022 like God of War games, it touches on like a bit of a humanity like within these like fictional characters that are supposed to not be like us, right? like I'm sorry, Kratos is a god, Atreus is also part god, so there's already a separation there. But the fact is that they got this father and son like relationship that a lot of people connect to. So even if they don't even like say like, oh, if they don't try to overtly like tell you that this is a story about father and son upbringing, instead they tell it just based on how they interact, and like that already like grabs the audience to that. But yeah, if anything, I guess to put it full circle, if you put it in the realm of video games, a great story doesn't necessarily matter in that respect. It's just based on like the gameplay or something like that. So, but you know, anime's understandably that is specifically like a story that you're trying to tell. So yeah, alrighty. I guess that's pretty much it. Wow, guys, I wasn't expecting that type of talk. So I guess to recap on everything, let me pull the topics here. Channel updates, usual here and there. Fire Emblem is still engaging live service games as engages are. There's always an outside influence that causes them to like shut down, unfortunately. And then we just talked about like a little bit of My Hero, and that kind of linked up to well, actually we talked about a subject that Gray brought in that led to like My Hero and a bunch of other shows to be added into that. So alrighty, we'll call it here, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for this podcast. It's been episode 445. Jeez, it's been the first solo podcast in a while too. But yeah, my name is Justin. Hope to see you guys in the next one. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys either later this evening for another stream, or you know, next time. So take it easy, everybody. #bye, everybody.